Welcome back to my channel. This is Spooky Coochie season. Spooky Coochie season. This Spooky Coochie season. If y'all didn't notice, low-key, y'all remember when I told y'all in the last video how my ring light was broken? Because as you can see right here, like how the power button is kind of like bent in. Well, guess what? I found me a new one, nigga. And because it's Halloween season, you know, this will be a perfect time to release maybe, you know, like a Halloween EP perhaps. You know, I'm just saying, possibly I'm just saying. But on today, we're going to be reacting to a video titled The Scariest Chapter of Poppy Playtime. Now, I know chapter 5 is supposed to be coming out. Now, if I had to say what the scariest chapter of Poppy Playtime would be, it would be, for me, I want to say 3, because that was the chapter where you had catnap and you had that one part in the game where you went into that house where the kids were sleeping and you was like walking through the hallways and you was hearing stuff. That was creepy. So if I had to say the scariest chapter for me personally would be chapter 3. So I don't know which chapter they go. By the look of how they got this title, it looked like chapter 3. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into this video of the scariest chapter of Poppy Playtime. All right, y'all ready? Get your pockets ready. Get your popcorn ready. I say get your pockets. Get your popcorn ready. Get your pockets ready too if you want to.
The scariest chapter of Poppy Playtime is by far chapter 3. It's dark, twisted, and unsettling. A big reason for this is the main antagonist, Catnap. This experiment was unlike any other at the time. It lurked in the shadows, stalking the player, just waiting for the right moment to strike.
See, that's what I was talking about when they was in the house.
But chapter 3's darkness extends beyond Catnap. So stick around for the video and subscribe as we take a deeper look at why chapter 3 is the darkest chapter we will ever see.
Okay. I mean, chapter 4 was dark,
1
but
and 2 took place on the surface level of the factory, meaning
creepy.
they took place inside the once bright and colorful factory. However, for chapter 3, we went down. Deeper than ever before. It was as if we were descending into the depths of hell, and the red smoke parallels this perfectly. What's so eerie about being underground is just how massive the area is. Miles and miles of open caves. This was the first time we saw.
Can you imagine if
like
that was
this,
real?
And
like,
it makes you realize if
probably
Playtime Co. can hide this massive open space from the public, what else could they be hiding? Which leads to partially why the chapter was so dark. Play care. Of course, we already knew what was going on, but chapter 3 was the first time we actually got to see where the orphans were kept. To be more specific, Home Sweet Home, and that itself adds an entirely new layer of darkness. Gone are the days of happiness and laughter. Now all that remains are the dark echoes of the children's haunted past. It's an eerie reminder that innocence was taken away from these kids. The rundown halls, the destroyed furniture, and the blood-stained bedsheets. It creates a sense of dread. The entire time you are inside the orphanage, it makes you wonder if any of them died right where you are standing. That being said, as you're wandering the halls, your mind begins
This is what I was talking about.
The game starts to bleed into
oh, and can't you see him right there?
And
like how you can see him in the
so
distance.
Dark. Even
see
in
that?
The game, the player
like
has
that.
hallucinations. We see a nightmare Huggy. He's distorted with an even more creepy smile and crawls out of a television screen. This moment paired with the inability to move creates a sense of panic. But it's not just Huggy that makes this part so dark. The tape itself takes a twisted turn. It explains the player's current situation, slowly building tension as it makes them feel more and more uneasy. It reminds the player about the horrors that await in the shadows of the past. It's pretty dark stuff, but that's only a small part of the darkness this chapter has to offer. Another area that was once home to innocence which turned deadly is the schoolhouse.
The school with
At first,
Miss
it
Delight
seems
when
like
she was
just
trying
an
to
abandoned place. However, we quickly learn that something
Barbara
has been living inside here after all these years. Miss Delight. But the schoolhouse itself is enough to remind us just how dark things really are. Just like the orphanage, this was a place where the students thrived. Well, at least as much as Playtime Co. would let them. Anything and everything that was taught here, Playtime Co. had full control over. Why hire a real teacher that might start asking questions about missing students, when you could just make one yourself that would stay quiet?
Like something like this can can really
Playtime
happen
Co.
for
was
real.
able
I
to
feel like
control
something like this
everything the
already
orphans
exists.
would learn. The higher-ups had
Being
overhauled the
honest.
curriculum in a
Well, not
manipulative
exactly
way
like
that
this,
added
but
more
like
content centered around
along
Playtime
the
Co. They
same
stressed that it was
lines.
important the orphans knew about the company's history and philosophy, as well as the role Playtime Co. played in their lives. To the children, Playtime Co. saved them. At least, that's the picture they were trying to paint. You see, these orphans were not only learning the basic school curriculums, they were being taught only what Playtime Co. wanted them to learn.
Exactly.
They wanted the orphans to understand what was involved in true innovation, and that didn't come without a cost. If they wanted a bigger future, they had to make some sacrifices. The children were never too young to learn that. That's what makes this area so impactful, and we see this through the remnants of what's left. It's a haunting reminder that Playtime Co. is always in control. Furthermore, this sense of fear also comes from Miss Delight. When the player first meets her over the intercom, she acts relatively normal. However, we learn from notes that she has become completely deranged and insane. What makes her so dark is that she killed and ate the other Miss Delight teachers to stay alive. She drove herself mad thinking that they would turn on her, so she acted before they could. All with the help of her friend Barb, an inanimate object that she made to kill the others. She would have conversations with it. It would speak to her, proving that she truly lost her mind. Her story is chilling.
I feel like I'd do something like
about
that.
It makes her encounter that much more terrifying. Now, the darkest part of the chapter does not come from an area. Rather, it comes in the form of an experiment. The main antagonist, Catnap. The character itself brings a much darker tone than ever before.
Can you imagine something chasing you, especially in those hallways? I promise you, I would fall out and croak and die.
To defend yourself, and when you're at your most vulnerable, he'd kill you. Catnap lived for the hunt. These are words said directly from
Just take me. Just take me. Don't hunt me. Take me. Just take
Catnap
me.
is always lurking around a corner, watching us, just waiting for the right moment. It
Something
puts the
like that,
player in
I
a
promise you I would have a heart
constant sense
attack.
of fear. It makes them feel like they're always being watched. That is a huge reason why this chapter is so creepy. Besides chapter 3, anytime you are exploring an area, you don't really have this sense of fear until you see the enemy. But in chapter 3, we are led to believe that Catnap is always watching, which causes this constant
That's why he needs to just go ahead and kill me then, because
is dense, but it plays a huge part in his role within chapter 3. It ties into why the chapter feels so dark. The orphan chosen for the Catnap experiment was none other than Theodore Grambel. Theo was a troubled orphan, always presenting juvenile behaviors and getting into trouble and not listening to the staff. This bad attitude carried on throughout his time at Playcare, which caused concern from the counselors. Theo was antisocial and he didn't have any friends. He was a lost child looking for direction, and he would ultimately find it. But this direction did not come from Playtime Co. Rather, it would come from something hidden in the shadows of the company. Theodore would develop a relationship with an imaginary friend, or at least that's what the staff thought it was. While lost, vulnerable, and needing direction, the prototype would find Theodore and take him under his wing. A troubled mind is very easy to manipulate, so the prototype took full advantage of this. The two would develop a friendship that would shape Theodore's fate for the rest of his life. At the demand of the prototype, Theodore tried to help him escape from the facility. However, this attempt would almost kill Theo, leading the prototype to save his life. Instead of leaving, the prototype carried the boy's injured body to staff. From then on out, Theodore owed the prototype his life, and he would ultimately pay. After Theodore's transfer into the Catnap bigger body, he began following around the prototype like a dog. You see, the prototype convinced Catnap that he could save him, rather save all of the other experiments. So Catnap began worshipping the prototype as his god. To Catnap, the prototype was the angel of
I ain't gonna lie.
He would protect them.
I feel like if I was like in this situation,
this is important because we see Catnap act this way.
I feel like
in
I
chapter
like
3. All throughout,
low key losing my mind like
on
this.
The walls from Catnap saying things like,
because what do you do?
Path,
you're in an abandoned toy factory.
Breathed us in the garland.
All these experiments, you done got turned into a toy yourself.
All religious terms.
And now you got this, the prototype,
the prototype that was built by Catnap.
I feel like I do the same thing.
Again, the prototype was his god. And that is why this character is so dark. The religious undertones he carries adds a layer of complexity and eeriness to him. It was something we had never seen before within the game or even expected. And like I said before, Catnap ultimately paid for the life he owed. His god, the prototype, lowered down his hand in an act of desire. So Catnap knew his time was up. He would open his arms and give his life to his god. This death caught everyone off guard, and the religion behind it is what makes it so dark. Catnap could also exhale the red smoke that was used to put the orphans to sleep. This would allow the scientists to conduct experiments on said orphans, meaning Catnap was made to help the scientists, adding another layer of darkness to his character.
But why so creepy? Like, y'all could just have made him
showed us
like
the Hour of Joy, an event that put a stop to the torment Playtime Co. was causing. This event ended up not only killing the guilty, but also the innocent. In the tape, we can even see hundreds of dead bodies that the toys would eat to stay alive. This tape, the locations, the characters, their stories, the religious undertones, and the sheer fear this chapter makes you feel all perfectly proves why Chapter 3 is and will always be the scariest chapter of Poppy Playtime.
Yeah. That's it? That's it?
Do you think Chapter 3 is the scariest? Chapter 4 was dark, but I don't think it captured true horror like Chapter 3 did. So let me know.
And I agree with him. I feel like with Chapter 4, Chapter 4 and Chapter 2 almost had the same, it was more so of like puzzles and trying to figure out how to get out. Versus with Chapter 3, it was just straight up horror. I feel like Chapter 3 low-key was kind of maybe the best chapter. I am getting back in the groove of making videos. Y'all have to understand, like, you know, I do have a busy schedule, but that's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses. No excuse. So please be expecting different types of, especially because this is Halloween season and my birthday season. I'm just saying. Please be expecting more videos to come, and I will see you. And now that I have a little bit of fun save up, I can really invest in like more equipment, more stuff to, you know, do on these videos. So with that being said, I will see y'all in the next video to come. Goodbye. God bless you.
You think you just fell out of a cook? You think you just fell? You think you just